Hey YouTube. So I bought this pontoon boat. I think I don't know, it's like an '09 or something, Bentley, and it came with a 2018 Suzuki 70 horsepower 4-stroke, fuel injected. And what's happening is when I get close to getting up onto plane, like it's sluggish getting out of the water. I mean, when you first give it throttle, it pulls up pretty decent, but once it starts lifting up, what was happening is I thought the prop was spinning because it would be like it was doing a burnout, like it was just the engine would rev up and it wasn't going anywhere. And looked out the back while it was going, and I thought maybe the prop was spinning. And I guess it's a common problem that inside here in the prop there's a rubber bushing behind here, and it's pressed into the prop. So if that loosens up, the prop will spin on the bushing, on the rubber bushing inside there. So I put a brand new prop on it, and it's still doing the exact same thing. So what I think is wrong with this motor, it's a short shaft motor, and I think this boat actually requires a longer shaft. So what's happening is when we're going, the water is getting diverted down from underneath this. It's getting pushed down, and the prop is lifting out of the water, and it's just running on top of the water. So Suzuki is actually pretty cool. I don't know if anybody else does this, any other manufacturers, but you can buy a short shaft Suzuki, and to make it a long shaft, they sell this spacer, and they sell an extension drive shaft, and here's the linkage for the shifter, and some extended bolts, double-sided threaded bolts, and an extension water tube. So what I'm going to try to do here is I'm going to try to extend this and make it a long shaft motor and see if that solves my problem. Otherwise, I don't know what to do after this. But I've never done it before. I'm not really an outboard or a boat guy. I do a lot of jet ski stuff, but I'm gonna give it a go. I mean, it doesn't seem too difficult. So what I'm basically gonna do is I'm going to start out by taking this off, this off. There's another guy up in there. I don't know if you could see it. It's hard to see. There's another guy up in there, and then there's two on this side, and I'm thinking it should drop right out. And then once I get that out, well, first I'm going to take the prop off. I'm going to get all this off because I think I got to pull the drive shaft out of here to disconnect it from the drive shaft that goes up to the motor. But again, this is the first time I'm doing it, so we'll see what happens. First thing I'm going to do is take the prop off. All right, so there was a cotta pin in there. This is a castle nut. So the cotta pin, there's a hole in there. I mean, for anybody that's has never seen one of these, it's the same as like on a trailer axle or something. There's a pin that goes in there, so you just use a pair of pliers, unbend it, pull it out, and then this nut is a 27 millimeter. So it'd be good to have an impact to get it off, because this just free spins. So if you have like a pneumatic impact or a Milwaukee impact or something like that, it should get this nut right off. It shouldn't really even be that tight. So I'm going to wheel that nut off and pull the prop off. Alright, so it came off pretty easy with just a regular impact, and I got just a little adapter there. But so inside here you have this well, there's a washer, and then there's a ring, like a locking ring that locks onto that spline right there. So make sure when you put this all back together, you have this upper washer, and then it should pull right off. I just changed this prop recently because I was having the issue, so, but the other one did come off pretty easy. We'll just, there's that rubber bushing inside there that I'm talking about. Sometimes the shaft will actually spin this rubber bushing inside the prop, and it'll feel like you're doing a burnout, but this boat did it right from when I bought it, so I'm thinking I got stuck with it. So now, all right, well, there's another spacer underneath there. You're going to make sure that that goes back on correctly. That's, you know, take pictures or a video when you're doing it so you know you're doing it correctly. So I got 2 bolts here, and then I got to get this off. I have a tool. I think this might be have to be pressed off, but let me get these bolts off, see if this thing will just pull off. If not, I'm going to have to use a tool to pull this off. All right, so I had to use a thin wall, 12 millimeter to get in there. This was pretty tight here, so my 1/2-inch sockets didn't get in like around this, so I had to go down to my 3/8 sockets with a thin wall, 12 millimeter to get that off. Or you can use an open-end wrench if you want to take all day. But yeah, this doesn't just pull out. It doesn't even move. So I think I'm going to have to press this out. I'll show you the tool that I have to do that. And go get it. All right, not everybody's even going to have this tool. It's a puller. So basically it's like a pulley puller, but this thing has got like extended arms. I guess it's for doing this, so you're gonna need this to get it out. It's got 2 hooks on it, and they lock over those fins inside there, and then when you tighten the screw, it'll push down on the shaft and it'll pull that piece out without busting it apart. So a friend of mine loaned me this tool, and he said he's done this before on his Suzukis. He's done a prop shaft replacement, so he needed to use this to get that piece off. So I'm going to go ahead and try to pull it off. Hopefully it doesn't break. All right, so it pulled out pretty easy. So all this thing is it's just got a rubber seal on it, and that keeps all your oil, your lower unit oil, in. You can see the whole thing's full of oil. Maybe you can see it. And then you got a bearing on there. So this came out pretty easy. I actually just used my hand. I twisted the thing with my hand, and it came right out. You hear like a suction sound, and it just popped loose. But luckily my lower unit was up because I forgot to drain the oil out of it. So I'll get a bucket and drain all the fluid out, and it looks pretty clean. I guess I'll just put new stuff in there, but if you want to save it, use a clean bucket. If it looks blue and clean, then I guess you could reuse it. So now what I'm going to do is now that I got all these pieces off, you can actually see there's roller bearings inside there too. So you're just going to want to be careful. I guess check this. There's a seal right there on the outside. Make sure that seal is good. Looks all right. There's no water in there, so I guess it's working properly. So I'm just going to put it all back together the way it came off. I'm not going to replace any of that stuff. I don't have it anyway. Again, I've never done this before, and I can't find any videos on how to actually put a spacer in one of these. So hopefully I do it correctly and we're good. So I'm going to get all these. There's 5 bolts. I'm going to take them out, and then that one up in there. They are let's see. They are, looks like 14 millimeter. Yep, they're 14 millimeter. So let's see if they come off easy. Yep, they break loose pretty easy. That one did. I mean, again, this motor, I don't think has even a lot of hours on it. but they come off pretty easy. So let me get this oil drained out before I make a mess, and we'll get back to it. All right, so now I got all the fluid out, and I don't know. I don't see anything else holding this. Maybe, oh, well, it's loose. Oh, something's holding it in there, so I'm thinking maybe the shaft that comes down might be locking into it. Well, let me see if I can get this thing out. Well, all right. Well, I guess what I'll do now is I'll take all those bolts off and I'll pull it off, and maybe the shaft going up has to be taken off first, and then this will pull out. But I mean, it doesn't feel like anything's holding this really in. So, and I know that thing in there, if I got a needle nose plier, I could probably pull that out. But again, I've never done anything like this, so I'm just winging it. So bear with me. Not pretty easy. Just keep in mind, well, all right, I actually see a problem because when we do the conversion to make this a long shaft, it doesn't come with bolts. It comes with double-sided threaded posts, and I don't have the nuts. I didn't even think about that, but all right, so I got it split. I'm holding it, but there's the little hose there that has to be pulled off. So just pull it down a little bit and then pull that hose off, or you might even, before you even pull this down, you probably get it from the top, but I didn't do it. So now I gotta put the camera down and pull that little hose off. All right. So I took these bolts out. They're 12mm bolts in here. They're all the same size. That's for your water pump. So I'm going to slide that off. That'll just slide right up off the shaft. And then there's this little like half moon shaped thing that slides into that. There's like a little slot here. And that comes out. Make sure you put that back in. There's a plate. That comes off. And I guess I gotta get those out. So here's the other shaft. It's got, looks like it screws in at the bottom. Not sure exactly. I mean, this shaft, I don't know, maybe I ordered the wrong one, but this one looks to be exactly the same as this one. So I don't know. Maybe somebody sold me the wrong part. I don't know. But I don't think this is the right shaft for this. But I don't know. We'll see. I'll get it out and we'll see what happens. All right. So I flipped this thing upside down, and then I got that. This slides down in there, and it just came right off when I turned the lower unit upside down. And so you can see inside there, the upper gear has a nut on the end, so I guess I gotta hold that and then use like a pipe wrench or something to hold on to that and get that nut loosened up. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, no other way. There's no other way that shaft is coming out. I mean, I took the bolts out of that, and that's loose now. I can't get it off without, I have to use like a pick or something to get it off, but it's loose, and it kind of lifts out a little bit. Oh, there we go. I got it off. All right, that's just a seal. And there's a bearing in there. I don't know how to get this. I don't know how to get that out. Alright, well. Alright, let me think about this for a minute. Alright, so that nut inside there is a 19 millimeter, and it just so happens that I have a spline tool for Yamaha jet ski to change the impellers. So I'm going to put that on there, and I'm going to hold that with a pipe wrench, and I'm going to see if I can break that nut loose. I don't see any other way of getting it out, but I don't know, we'll see what happens. I gotta put the phone down. Alright, so I broke that nut loose. It came off pretty easy. I didn't really have to turn it too much. There might be some kind of torque spec on it, but there's no Loctite on there or anything. But this is the shaft. It's got a bearing on here that's gonna have to be pressed off, and another one or that one pressed back on, and all this stuff has to come off and be swapped over. But the problem is this is the same exact shaft as what I got, so that's not going to work. I guess they sent me the wrong shaft. So I guess back to the drawing board. I'll have to get the right shaft. Hopefully all these other parts are correct. I'm going to have to change the shifter. Let's see. This is the new one that I got. Okay, so that looks like that's that end. So I don't know. It looks like I got all the dang wrong parts. It looks like I got all the parts to redo with the same exact lower unit. Well. Alright, well, back to the drawing board. That nut is still down in there, so it's going to be tough getting it back on. Probably, I might have to take this. Well, I don't see how that gear will come out without taking all that stuff out, so I don't even know how I'm going to get that back together, but I guess I could. I guess for now I'm going to just try to see if I can get the correct parts. One thing I can do is I got the rods, and well, the threads are different. You got shorter ones on this side, longer ones on this side. I'm going to guess the longer ones go up into the I would say that they go up that way with the longer threads in there. So I'm going to put some thread lock on there, because once I do get the nuts for the bottom, I don't want the whole shaft spinning if I'm trying to undo this ever again. But I'm going to put some thread seal on these and at least try to get this mid shaft, see if this piece is correct. So, alright, I'm going to do that. Alright, so after a long pause, here's the original shaft that I took out. I had ordered the wrong one, basically the same one that I had, but you see how much longer the new one is right here? So this is the one we're going to use, but I got to transfer this bearing and all this stuff over to this one. Now there's a pin that goes inside this hole right here. It's just a push pin. You can't push it out the other side because it doesn't come out. So you got to pull it out. And the way I did that is I took a tap from a tap and drill set, and I screwed the tap into the pin while it was in there. I screwed it in, put the end of the tap in the vise, and I just yanked on the, it kind of went like in like this. Sorry, I'm doing this one hand, and I just pulled real hard on this and the pin came out. So now I can slide all this stuff off and then press the bearing off and press the bearing on a new shaft, and get all this stuff back in. Then I can reuse that pin and we should be good to go. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take all this stuff off. I'm going to make an attempt to press this off with my press and get that bearing back on the new shaft. I'm going to have to press that back onto here. Alright, so I couldn't find a good way to get it off of my press, but I just stuck the shaft on the ground and I took a piece of PVC and I slid it over the top and just put it right to the edge of it. And then I hit this with a hammer lightly and just kind of went around it like that a little bit and just kept hitting the top of the PVC pipe and it dropped right off. So I'm going to see if I can do the same thing, getting it back on the new shaft. Let's try it out. Okay, I was able to press it back on. This is a piece of 1-inch PVC. So what I did is you got to cut it as straight as you can, but I also beveled the edge, you can see on a grinder, so that it slides down inside and hits the inner rim inside there. You don't want it to hit the outside part. You want it to go inside there. And I just hit it with a hammer, just a ball peen hammer, and it slid right on. And it spins fine. So now I'm just going to put all this other stuff back on. I got the bearing and the outer rim. That slides off. When you put it on, it just goes right back over. And then there's a washer on top of that. That's got to be on there somewhere. I'm going to put all this stuff back in. And then I'm going to just raise it all up and then put that pin back in that I had taken off with the tap. So that's it. It's all back together. So I'm going to screw this back to the lower unit. Well, I hope I am. So that outer ring to the bearing, that has to be pressed in there. It kind of slides in by finger, like pretty, well, you could probably just work it in with your finger or just get a piece of like a PVC coupling and just slide it over onto there, and then you can just lightly tap that in. I will put some gear lube in there just to get some in the bearings. But on this side, there's a nut down in there, and you got to get the threaded end to screw into that nut. So that's going to be a little trickier, but I think with a magnet and the open end wrench that I use to take it off, I should be able to get it lined up and tighten back up, and we should be good. Well, I just found out that this comes out, and I guess the linkage somehow goes into this, but this whole thing I don't know how it came out, but I turned this upside down and this whole thing just popped right out. So maybe when I took the shift linkage out, it loosened this up, but when I first took this off the boat, this did not come off. So I don't know. All right, I guess we'll figure it out later. So I got that in. It's all the way in. And it spins pretty good. So I'm going to put the washers back on, throw some gear lube in there, and then start putting the water pump back on. And Yeah, I don't know. That scares me a little bit. Why that? Yeah, I guess all the way down in there. Yep, the shift linkage, I guess, goes to that. And that kept it in there. Once I took the shifter linkage out, it allowed this part to come out. I mean, it would have made things a lot easier before, but oh well. Alright, so I'm guessing this seal goes back on. I don't see anything else over here that I think I'm missing. I think that's everything. Yep, so this seal is just a, I don't know, I guess it's a water seal. And it goes down over, and it looks like it only goes on one way. Yep. So you can't really mess this up. It only goes on one way. I'm not sure which way that is, but you keep spinning it until all the bolts line up, and then you got it. I think that's it right there. Yep, I believe that's it. Alright, so I'm going to tighten these bolts up. Alright, so I got the water pump assembly and that other piece on. I had to take it all back apart again. There was these two washers on that part that's underneath the water pump plate, and it went over the bearing on the race on the bearing. There were two of them, and when I had tightened that seal down underneath here, the shaft was just incredibly tight where it didn't spin at all. Like right now, it's very hard to spin, and I don't remember if it's supposed to spin easy. I'm thinking it's I mean, I can turn it now. Maybe it just has to loosen up. I don't know. I mean, I could spin it by hand. So, I don't know. I guess I'll find out. I don't want to take both these off. I was thinking that they're just spacer washers to give you, to make sure that race is on there tight, but it seems like it's on tight with the new shaft. So, maybe I shouldn't have used any of these. I don't know. But it's definitely on there tight. I'm thinking maybe it'll loosen up once I run it. So, I don't know. We'll find out. I guess if it blows up, I'll have to redo it. Alright, so I put all this stuff back together, and there's another thing I forgot. Here's the gear shifter. This is what holds that. That goes down inside, and it holds the shaft in place. And that's what was, once I took the water pump and everything out, and pulled this thing out, then this will come loose and you can pull that out, and then it's easier to get that nut out inside there for the upper shaft here. But I put all this back together, and this has to go in first. But what I got to do is I ordered, you got to get the extended shaft. So you can see this one is, this one's bigger. So I got to take all this stuff off and put it on this shaft here. And also here's the water tube. And this is going to be another project, because this water tube doesn't go in the foot. The water tube is up in there. So what you got to do is you got to take this part off, all these bolts. You got to take both the shields off, and this is going to go up like this in here, or I think it goes, maybe it goes like this, so that it extends down 5 inches. The other one just stops right there. I don't know if you can see it in there. There it is, right there. Right there. So this has got to extend down 5 inches. So this is really, it's a lot bigger of a project than I expected, but I'm this far. I got to do it. I got all the parts. Again, I've never worked on one of these before, so I really have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just going through the motions. So I apologize if I have missteps or I got to go back and redo things. In the process of waiting for parts, because I had gotten the wrong parts, I had to buy the right parts. This has been a couple weeks now that I'm getting back to this, so I got to remember where everything goes. I didn't think it was going to be this complicated, but all right, well, we're going to get back to the lower unit. All right, so I got the new shaft. I got all the Oh Jesus clips, the C clips on it. And the bushings just the way it was on the other one. So when you're putting this back in, there's this little finger sticking off of here, and down inside there's a groove in the output shaft or the prop shaft, and this finger has to be, I believe, inside that groove. I didn't check it when I pulled it out, and again, I've never done this before, but when I put this in there and spin it, if I spin it one way, it'll lock this shaft. And then when I turn it the other way, the shaft free spins. So I'm thinking that's the engage or the driving gauge shaft. So when you just leave the top piece off, where is it? Right here. Just leave that off, because you could just slide that on, and then a little bolt will hold it on right there. So you can put this in first. Let's see. All right. All right, so you put it in, and then right now it's locked, it's engaged. So you turn it the other way, and it free spins. So I'm thinking that's it. I got it. All right, so now I had to take the water pump all back apart, because this piece, it's got an O-ring on it, so make sure you lube that. And it's got a little rubber bushing on it with a little spring clamp. So that's going to slide back on there and get this bolt out. And there's a C clamp there, so it's only going to go down. It'll hold, basically it'll hold it in place. So I'm trying to do this with just one hand here. It goes in pretty easy, but with one hand it's kind of tough. Oh, I'm gonna have to use two hands for this, I think, to get it to spin, because the hole doesn't line up. Yeah, I'm gonna have to put the phone down. All right, so it's real hard to spin this once you push it all the way in. If the bolt's not, if that little pin or that little hole's not lined up where the bolt's got to go in, it's very hard to turn it. So now I got that in. Hopefully this will go back on properly now. This only goes on one way, and my water pump looks good. I mean, generally I would change that, but I'm not going to this time. And that just pops right on. And then I just put my bolts back in. Remember, first comes tight, then comes broke. So I'm gonna tighten these down with a ratchet. I don't know what the torque specs on all this stuff is. I don't have a book. I'm gonna make it tight enough where it holds it and doesn't break. And same with this. And then that's well, let's see, what do I gotta do in here? I know this. All right. I think this went behind the prop, because here's the gears, and there's a gear in there. So yeah, that goes over that. Sorry. That goes over that, and then this will ultimately, I'm not sure which way it went on. I can't remember. I don't know if it went on this way. I think it went on this way. Let me see the prop. Oh. Nope, that doesn't seem right. That seems right. Where it would go on the flat surface here, because there's nothing that requires, this has a beveled edge, and there's nothing that requires a flat surface, so, except for the prop. So I'm thinking that goes on there, and then the prop will go over this. I had to use that press to get this off, that pulley puller, but getting it back on, it should just, well, let's, gotta make sure that gear gets on that other gear. All right, I'm gonna have to put the phone down because there's a gear inside there that's attached to this shaft right here, and I don't know if it's received it, and I don't want to beat this thing in, and that gear is like tooth to tooth, so I gotta mess with it. All right, so what I did was I turned this shaft while I was pushing this thing in, and it kind of just went right in. Went in pretty easy. So you just got to get the bowl holes lined up here. And put your bolts in and tighten them down. And then this will go over that. And then your prop goes over that. And then this piece goes over the prop. And then your bolt and everything, or your nut that holds the prop on, will go over that. So I'm going to get all this tightened up. I got to get that tightened up over there. And now I'm going to start working on the water tube. So I'll once I start taking the upper unit apart, I'll video that, and we'll see what's going on with that. All right, so I got it back together. I put some lower unit oil in it, just to lubricate it. The fill spot is right there. So just a little screw on there. You just use 90 weight, not 80-90. Lower unit gear lube. Tighten that up. All right. So this is the shim piece that goes over that. This one was used, so it came with the parts were already in there. There's like a spring clip and a bushing inside there, and there's a pin here. This one's missing, so I'm hoping that is on my upper unit. But if not, I can order one of those. I might even have one laying around that'll work. There is a vent hose that connects to that port down there. So you're gonna have to get an extension, just a piece of rubber hose that'll pop down on there, and then you'll have to connect it to wherever the hose comes down, and you'll need a little barb fitting or something to go in between, or just run a whole new piece of hose, a longer piece of hose up. This is pretty much it for now. I did take the prop back off. I thought I had a gear oil leak, but it ends up there was some gear oil that was somehow inside this thing here, and when I flipped it over, it started pouring out. It started leaking out, just dripping out. So I pulled it all back apart and just realized that this thing was wet on the inside. There was some stuff in there. So I did that for nothing. But all right, next project will be to tear down the upper unit and see what we got there. Hopefully it's not too bad. All right, so this is just a backup here. This shaft, when it's in gear, so you'll see I'm going to spin the shaft. Got to put it in gear. Yep. So when it's in gear, when you have this in gear and you spin the shaft, it should spin freely. So if you just, with your two fingers, you should be able to spin it. Even with the water pump in there, it should spin freely. If it's too tight, there's two of these, I pulled two of these washers out that sat underneath here. And what they are is they're actually spacers. That puts pressure down on the race on top of the bearing. If it's too tight, you got these in there, you got to take these out until it spins freely. So again, just with two fingers, you should be able to spin it while it's in drive. So, all right, now I got to take the upper unit apart to put the water tube in. All right, so we got both the side shields off. It's just a 5/16 or 8mm or Phillips head screwdriver, but this is what it looks like. There's we got these out already. They're 14mm or 9/16. There's 6 of them, so you want to they're all right along here. There's 4 on each side, so there's 8, and then we got to bang this thing down and off. I just use a piece of PVC pipe on the lip with a hammer, and should come down pretty easy. All right, so with it down, you can see how the water tube is inside there. This is actually the original one. We had already put it in. I forgot to film it, but you just slide it out, and you can see the extended shaft, how much longer it is. So you're just going to want to put the bushings back on, lubricate the shaft, slide the new one in. Just let it stick up a little bit so that you can get this into the hole right there, so you can see it as you're putting it up, and then put all the screws back in, and that should be it. That should be the water tube install. All right, so we got the new extension put in there. We got the studs put in, and that mid piece, that's back in. So just keep in mind, there's a vent here that goes down through the hole in the back. that connects into the lower unit. This is now going to be too short. So what I'm going to do, I just got a piece of tubing and I put it in on the barb on the bottom, and I'm just gonna, it's real long, so we're just gonna run this up through that hole there, and then we're gonna use a like a coupler piece, a little barb fitting to just splice the two together. But we'll do that after the fact. So now we're gonna put the lower unit back in. Hopefully everything's good. All right, so I screwed up again. When I was putting the drive shaft back together here, or the shifter shaft, I put this end piece on the wrong way. If you notice on the top, there's a notch. There's a notch, and that only goes in there one way. So that has to line up. You got to put the lower unit in neutral, and this piece, when it's in neutral, should slide in there. But see, the thing is backwards. Here's another one that I have, and it should be facing that way. It's almost, well, it's almost halfway around out. Typical for how I do things. But yeah, so I gotta get that C-clamp back off and then spin this the right way, and then we're gonna put it back in and then put the lower unit in. Hi Spooky, you're on YouTube. Okay, so when you put this part where there's no gear has to be facing this direction in order to receive it. So if your shifter is in neutral on the boat and the drive shaft is in neutral, see, we spin this and it's not spinning down there, so it's in neutral, that's in properly, and this is facing back, then you're ready to install it. I had to take all this back apart because I had the piece on the bottom on wrong, so I had to do it all over again. But I think we're good now, so we're gonna go ahead and put it in. All right, so I had a piece of tubing that was long enough, and I brought it up inside there and I cut the original tubing, and this tubing slid in, so, and it's all back to where it went before. We just started it and put it forward, put it in neutral, put it reverse, and it was working good. So I'm going to make sure the gear case is filled with oil. We're going to throw the prop on and we're going to take it for a spin. Alright, so this is what it looks like with the extension piece in there. And here, it starts there, ends there, and it gives me more clearance. What was happening is my pontoon boat, when I got up onto a plane, there's an older boat and somebody put a newer motor on it, the prop would lift out of the water and start to run on top of the water. So Suzuki has these cool extension kits that you can get, and I'm going to take it for a test run and make sure everything's good. But I mean, that's giving me plenty of clearance below the boat. So I think this boat was just meant to have a long shaft motor on it. So, well guys, hopefully this video helps, and please like and subscribe. It definitely helps out. Thank you.